Alright, this is my Dragon Link deck profile for 2025, and this is more or less just going to be a complete overview of the card selection, my choices for this format, and some of my thoughts about the deck. So, getting started, let's more or less go with the engine. The main staples of Dragon Link, as always, are Black Belt Dragons. Your Red Eyes engine is your strongest, it's your one-card starter. We're foregoing the Meteor engine, specifically because we don't want to run the Ricks in this format, it's not worthwhile. So we have the three starters. These are your bread and butters. You have the red MD that you go into, so you'll link off into Striker, the red MD, brings back, so on and so forth. And we're also running the Metal Morph package. This is just Savage Cope for anyone who's in the know, but if you're not, it's a pretty phenomenal engine, at least for an end board. Pairs phenomenally with your Bestials. Essentially, during the end of your Red Eyes combo, you'll add this, and then this will be able to set your Max Metal Morph, which will be able to tribute over any of your big dragons for this guy right here, which is essentially an Omni-Negate on field, which is pretty nice. Moving on, we have the Bestial engine. This is your most important package out of all of them. So even if you just draw these, you're going to be mostly fine. We have 3 Libellions, 1 Baldrake, 1 Druistorm, 1 Magma, and I prefer triple Serener, but you can play 2 or 1, depending on what you want to play. These are very important, however, because they're, well, great into most lighter dark matchups. They beat Fiendsmith. They don't necessarily beat Malice, but they can help disrupt your opponent's Bestials as well. And they're decent against Mitsurugi. Moving on, we're going to go into our safer, kind of regular Dragon Extenders. We're playing 1-in-1 of Clap Serpent Wyver Burster, but in a heavier list, or if you want to play more of these, you can totally do that. I prefer 2 Wyver Burster, but in this we're just playing fun. And your safeguards, obviously, for adding any of these dragony boys. Moving on, we're going to go to our Tracer package. We're playing 2 Tracers, 1 Caliber, 1 Recharger, and I prefer triple Quick Launch, but you can get away with playing 2 or even 1. So this is your basic dragons. Obviously, you want to play Chaos Space, the Ravine with the Romulus, but we'll move on to that in just a second here. I am playing a special kind of, I guess, quote-unquote tech. It's Link Belt Wall Dragon. If you haven't read this before, let me go ahead and pull this up for you. Let's see. Alright, here we go. When you Link Summon, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, place 2 counters on it. If a monster is Link Summoned, remove 2 of these counters from this card, or all if less than 2. Once per turn, during each standby phase, place 1 of these counters on this card. No monsters can be Link Summoned unless this card has at least as many counters as a monster's Link rating. And monsters cannot attack except Links. So why is this good? For 1, it's a level 6 extender. So if, let's say, you have a Bestial and you Link Summon, you can grab this guy out, go into a tomb, and that can be a full combo. Also phenomenal against both Fat Malice and Fiendsmith. Because your Fiendsmith player is going to want to go into Direct Beam or even Sequence, and by the time it gets to their turns, they'll have 3 counters. And for Malice, it's pretty self-explanatory, they use all things. So for this format, I think it's particularly good, but it isn't really great into the Mitsurugi matchup, so if you do go against a Mitsurugi opponent, you can just side these out. It's not worth playing against them. For the non-engine, and before we go into the extra deck, we're playing 2 Nibiru. I think 2 is just better than 3. You don't want to brick on this, but it is phenomenal to see, even if you're going first. With triple Droll, it's just mandatory this format. Like, everything adds. It beats every deck. Going into Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Again, you want to play this against everything. It's good against everything. Pretty self-explanatory there. We're also just playing Triple Imperm. I like it. It works for everything. We're foregoing the Veiler just because you have cards like Called By, you have cards like Crossout, and Veiler's is very weak to those, even though you do get an extra light. For our Crossout package, we're just playing the 1 Fua. You could play more. I don't like playing more. Also, I only own 1, so that's besides the point. We're just playing 1 for the Crossout target. And obviously everything else is handled here. So, yeah, it's the main deck other than the Regained and the Root Sector and the Ravine. I forgot to talk about those, but let's move on to the extra deck. For the extra deck, we have Dispotter. I mean, it's pretty mandatory with all the Steel stuff you got going on. Revive stuff is Disruption. Overall, very good. Chaos Angel is also pretty much mandatory. It outs a lot of sticky board states. It's a big asshole. He's there and he sticks around. Very, very good card. We're playing a tech card in Eradicator. This is not mandatory at all. You can just forgo this for another Link monster. But I quite like it. It reads, during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one Fusion, Sinker, Xyz, or Link monster on the field, or if your life points are lower than your opponent's, which they usually won't on turn 1, you can target 2 and destroy them. So this is really good at targeting specifically like decks like YuGiOh, Malice, other problematic decks that might be in the format that rely on their Xyz or Link monsters to be on the field. You know, you can add a Promethean, you can add a Requiem, you can add Duo Drive especially. And it forces your opponent into really weird situations where they have to either out this beforehand or lose their most valuable pieces of extra deck. Moving on, we have Tomb with all the 6s we're playing. This is very worth having, at least going first. Going second, you don't run this at all, you just switch the Super Poly stuff. You could also theoretically run a different rank 6, or if you don't like this at all, you can just play like a rank 4, like Redo or whatever. Whatever suits your needs. Going on to the Link monsters, we have Borland Dragon. If you're playing the Rocket variant, this is mandatory. He's both a endboard piece and kind of an extender, allowing you to revive a Rocket by negating a monster on field. You can negate your own guys, so you can bring this back to go into Spotter and IP, so on and so forth. I like Goddess this format. It just outs a lot of sticky boss monsters, it negates the field. It's just a really good going, you know, turn 3, turn 2. And obviously, if you aren't seeing it work, again, I haven't played the Super Poly package, so you can decide that out if you don't feel like it's working. Next up, same reason as we're playing Goddess, we're playing Access Code Talker. You are playing 3 attributes of Link. You're playing the Wind, the Light, and the Darks. So it can out up to 3 monsters or cards in the field. I just think it's overall very useful, very impactful, turn 3, turn 2. Next up, we're playing Triple Burst. Part of the main Dragon Link combo requires you to use this card. Specifically when you're going from like a Romulus and a Pisty, you'll need an extra material so you can have a arrow that points to Pisty. I like Darkness format as well. Good in grind games, so if like let's say your opponent's playing a deck and you stop them but you don't have much to go off of and they don't have much to go off of either, if you just summon a Dark and like, even if you don't get a guy off of it, he can just act as like a big guy that gets you another body if they beat over it. Also, it's a great extender, so if your opponent's playing on a dark deck or they use like a dark card and it's in the grave, you can revive it, go Triple Burst, or like go Access Code Talker, and it's just good overall. SPs, I don't even know, it's just good. Great off of IP, even just going second, it's phenomenal. Yeah, I don't even know what to say, just good card overall. Romulus, this is your mandatory combo extender. So, where is the answer? There it is. That's right. Here we go. So during the mainline combo, which I will show you later, this basically is your best midway through the combo extender guy. So this is what adds Ravine, which sends any dragon from deck to grave. You'll usually be sending the Abso router, and that'll add your own Tracer or whatever rocket you need. From here we have IP Masquerena. This can get you the SP on your opponent's turn, so that's obviously very useful. It can banish a card. But it can also, if it works out that way, you can even get Goddess in your opponent's turn and steal one of their or use one of their monsters as material, which is very, very effective. Seals is mandatory in basically any dragon deck. It just bounces itself or a card in field and hand, or in your hand, to tribute a card in your field or your hand, and then bounces a card in your opponent's field. And then it also, if you tribute itself, can get any dragon from the deck onto your field. So very, very useful for the grind game, very, very useful just overall to get materials for turn 3, so on and so forth. We have Pisty, this is one of your best extenders. So you'll be using this during your mainland combo to bring back any dragon to go into either Borland or Fields or whatever you need. And then obviously we have Striker Dragon. We would play more of this if it were at 2 or 3, but it's TCG, so. This is the card that adds your Boot Sector launch, which is important for your combo if you do try to extend into the Rocket line, because it'll be able to summon your Tracer from hand. With that being said, let's move on to the side deck. So obviously this is very targeted for Malice and other like same type, same attribute decks. So we have 3 Lancia, Anti-Malice, we have a Mud Dragon, and Garura. So these are both good against Mitsurugi as well, because obviously same type, same attribute, well, not always same attribute, which is why we're running both. We're then running board wipe cards, so we're running Harpies and Lightning Storm. This is in case you go up against like back row heavy decks. or you just need stuff to out big boards. These are always very, very useful. We're running the one of triple tactics talent. You could run this in the main over crossout if you wanted to. I prefer it in the side because you really never know what your opponent's going against, and it's not always good. We're running triple forbidden drop it. This is really good in this deck. You're totally fine like going second, like discarding useless hand traps or discarding like cards like Serenir. You don't really need those. Or even if you just like draw like Recharger, you're perfectly fine discarding that. Moving on, obviously the triple super polarization for these two. Obviously, you don't have to run this package. You could run just more hand traps or more targeted stuff. So you could run like ogres, or any other card you feel fits for the format. But that is the very basic overview. Let's get on to the combos. Alright, hello, we're going to start with the first combo. So obviously we aren't running the Black Meteor engine, so we are just going to do, it's going to look a little simpler, but it's still good, quote unquote. So you're just going to summon your Black Metal Dragon. This is not once per turn. We're going to our Striker Dragon. So we're going to Chain Link 1, Black Metal Dragon, Chain Link 2, Striker Dragon. We're going to add the Boot Sector Launch. And we're then going to add the Darkest Metal Dragon. From here, we're going to banish the Striker Dragon. If you need this later, you can bring it back through various ways, like Despotter, or if you've regained on field, you can shuffle it back. So we're going to use Darkest Metal Dragon to bring back the Black Metal Dragon. And so we have two choices here. In the case that your opponent has Fuid you or Perulia you just want to go into... If they Perulia you can still go full combo and be fine. But if they Fua you, then you're just going to have to go Seals Past you. If they don't, then we go into our mainline combo. So we're going to go into Romulus. You usually want to start with the card in your grave to chain block. I should have mentioned that earlier. Because if they have both like Veiler or Imperm plus an Ash Blossom, they can negate both of your cards. So it's always important to do the one in grave first, and then the one on field second. And then we're going to go Ravine. And then we're also going to go Full Metal Dragon. So this will be important later. He can just tell our hand. We're then going to activate Ravine. You do need a discard for this combo. You'll more than likely have a discard. So we're just going to go Ravine effect. We're going to discard the Imperm, for instance. And then we're going to go ahead and send our Absol. So this is going to add our Tracer hand. So we're going to add him. Alright. And then we're going to activate Boot Sector Launch. And we're going to revive our Tracer. Awesome. So from here, again, you are very weak to nib. If they nib you, you just kind of cry. But usually you'll have like 3 other cards in hand to help out. So from here we're going to Tracer, pop the Boot Sector. If you don't have to pop the Boot Sector, you can pop something else. I recommend you do that, like if you have a Quick Launch activated or another card activated that you can pop, do that instead. Because Boot Sector is very, very good in the grind game. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and summon our Recharger. You can also summon your Caliber if you need to. We're then going to go into Pisty. We're going to go into Triple Burst. And out these arrows point. You can go ahead and revive a guy. So it doesn't matter what you bring back here, unless you're playing more Red Eyes cards, or if you have another card in grave you want to bring back. So we'll just bring back you. And then we'll go into Whirlwind Dragon. Now again, you're going to have more cards in hand to do stuff with. Usually they'll be Bestials, which will make this a lot more effective. But even by itself, you get Whirlwind. Or you could just get Seals. So, whatever you fancy, really. Obviously it doesn't look too impressive, but this is a pile deck. It does require 2 or more cards to do more than this. Even just like one more body, which is like the benefit of the Black Meteor engine, is so that you can get another body, so you can negate it and then go into the Masquerena. But anyway, let's move on to our second combo. Alright, hello and welcome back. So we're going to start with our Seyfert and Serenir combo. So again, we're assuming our opponent doesn't have hand traps, and if they do, you can just end on Seals Pass. But if they don't, we're going to go over how just Seyfert and Serenir together can turn into a full combo. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and summon Seyfert. And instead of going for a 4, like Wyvern Burst or Collapser, we're going to go for a 6 by sending Serenir to the graveyard. I'm going to do that. We're going to go ahead and grab Link Belt Wall Dragon. And I'll explain why we need this in the future. So we're going to go ahead and Serenade here, and we're going to send Bestial Rebellion. If you remember, Seyfert can banish itself to add a level 8 light or dark dragon monster from my graveyard to my hand. From here, we're going to go ahead and go into Striker Dragon, Striker Effects, and they're also going to chain Link Belt Wall. Because we link summoned, we can summon this monster. So we're going to go ahead and summon that as a level 6, grab the Boot Sector. We're then going to activate Seyfert and add Rebellion to hand. We're now going to Rebellion, grab Magma, this is the one that adds during the end phase. We're going to banish the Serenade, summoning it to the field, and then obviously activating its effect. And from here, we can transition into our Tomb line. So go with Tomb. And this allows us to summon any dragon from deck, but make its attack and defense 0, which doesn't really matter for this case. And we're going to send Magnet to grave. Doesn't really matter what you send to grave, but why not? From here, we're going to grab our Black Metal Dragon. And then we're going to go ahead and use both the Striker and the Black Metal Dragon to go into Romulus. So obviously this portion of the line will look familiar, like the last combo, but it's still important because there are distinct differences. So we'll add Ravine, and we'll go ahead and add the Dark Metal Dragon. We are now going to go ahead and banish the Attune for Dark Metal Dragon since we no longer need it. We're then going to go U, and we're going to grab our Black Metal Dragon back. And then we're going to go ahead and go into Pisty. So from here, Black Metal Dragon, you can go ahead and grab the Full Metal Dragon. We'll use this later in the combo. And from here, we're going to go into Ravine. So theoretically, you could get any dragon you want in this position. I tested combos. You can do whatever you want. The world is your oyster. But we're just going to go for the basics. So, you know, if you already have a rocket in hand, you don't need to do this. But we're going to go ahead and send the Imperm, send the Abso, and then we're going to activate Absorber's effects to grab our Rocket Tracer. From this position, we're going to activate the Boot Sector Launch Effect, Summon Tracer. So, another thing to note is you don't have to go into Borderland in this combo. You can actually just go Seals, IP, or like Eradicator, or whatever you want. But we're just going to do the Borderland stuff just to show you. So, I'm going to go Tracer, pop this, we're going to go into Recharger. We're then going to go ahead and use the Recharger. Oh, actually, before we do that, we probably want to get this out of the way, just in case. So we're going to go Lupelion, attributing our level 10 dragon. We're going to use its effect to go into Regain. This is your best kind of recovery and advantage tool. So if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, so let's say they nib you, you can use this to bring back a Bestial from grave. Furthermore, if you banish or your opponent banishes a card once per turn, you can shuffle that card back and then draw a card. So great for the grind game. Anyways, we're going to use, we can use anything here, but we're going to use the Bestial Rebellion and the Romulus. And we're going to go ahead and summon the Trollburst Dragon. So now the Pisty arrow and the Trollburst Dragon arrow point to one spot. Activate Pisty. Again, you can bring back anything here. It doesn't particularly matter. We're just going to do this for, well, why not? Bring back the Magnemut. We're then going to go U, U, and U into the Borderland Dragon. So from this position, it's very unique. We can actually go into Dispotter. You can also just go into IP. But from here, we're going to activate Borderland Dragons. We're going to negate the Recharger. We're going to summon, or sorry, the Magnemut. Summon this back. And we're then going to use these two to go into Bestial Dispotter. The cool thing is, this doesn't stop us from bringing back synchro monsters. So if we have a Bestial Engrave and we want to bring this back, we can. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Doesn't really matter what you bring back here, but we're going to go ahead and bring back the Seyfert. This is good for recovery. We're then going to go these two into Ivy Masquerena. And there we go, that's full combo. So not only can we activate this to set this, but we now have a monster pop, so basically a banish with IP, and a monster negate, as well as the Omni provided with the Metamorph. As well as, if we, let's say, end our turn, we can grab back, well, basically anything. you wanted to send a Druid Swarm off the Metamorph, because it does send a card to grave, then you can do that. If you just want basic disruption, you can go for Baldrake. If you already have both of these cards, or just one, you can go ahead and grab something for next turn, like Wyver Burster. And yeah, those are all great and phenomenal options. You could even go Link Belt Wall Dragon if you want to do a minor floodgating, but it would only be able to stop Link ones, so not particularly useful. For this, we're going to just go ahead and get the Druid Swarm. Alright, and from here, everything is online. Your Druid Swarm's online, your Fist Potter's online, your everything. And this is one of the better end rewards you can get. Obviously, it's very high rolly, and it's going to be difficult to get out, especially in this meta. With Droll, Nib, Fua being in the format, it's not going to be most likely that you're getting the full combo out, but if you do get it, it is very hard to stop. There we go. For this last combo, I'm just going to show off a very powerful hand in BMD and Bestial Rebellion by themselves. Obviously, there's a billion other combos you can do in this deck, so if I didn't showcase any, you're free to tinker and experiment. Again, like they showed you, the main checkpoints, Striker, into Romulus, grab Tracer, and then you just go Pisty, Troll Burst, Borland, all that jazz. Of course, you can do other things. So if your hand is more Bestial heavy, you're just free to go Seal's Pass, and that is just fine. So we're going to start with our basic stuff, our BMD. We're then going to go into Striker, and then we're going to go into the Black Metal, and then the Striker. We're going to show off a more, well, I'm going to show off a more simplified combo. We're going to grab the Darkest Petal, and then we're going to go into that. So back this like last time. And then we're going to go into the, instead of Romulus, we're going to go into Seals. The idea being, this is a hand that'd be better playing into Nib. So now we're going to grab the Full Metal, and then we can just go into our Bestial engine here. Going to grab the Magnamut. And once you've used your BMDs, you no longer need them. Like, unless you're specifically shuffling this back into the deck, which you don't really want to do anyway, these are just banish fodder, discard fodder after you use all their searches. I'm going to do this, and we're going to go ahead and tribute this for the Rebellion effect, and we're going to go ahead and grab the Regained, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So you just Black Metal, do that, and boom. And then I preferably like summoning this in the draw phase, so let's go end phase. We're going to add a Baldrake instead, because we can go ahead and grab the Druid Swarm off of the Heavenly Spheres. And then during the draw phase, just to get it out of the way, I'm going to do this, because if your opponent has a board breaker and you don't have the Omni on field, you do get a little messed up. So it's good to always have this on board. And yeah, so now we have Baldrake, this to grab Druid Swarm or whatever we need, and then we have an Omni on field, as well as Regained for advantage. The power of this deck, even though you don't feel like you're doing a lot, you're still ending on something substantial. Alright, so before we go on to the gameplay, I just want to say thank you very much for watching this far. If there's any comments or suggestions you want to leave for other decks I can do, or just on this deck in particular, please put them in the comment section down below. And yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and let's do the games.